Hello everybody, my name is Troublemaker. Welcome to week number 4 of the Go4Wargame Cup. We're looking at a best of 5 and we have a pretty awesome week 4 finals here. It's a NATO versus NATO, so we should see something we haven't seen in a while. Playing as the blue NATO members, we in fact will be having No Unit. No Unit, of course, do have one finals victory under their bag so far. And their opponents getting massively up the ladder, doing very well, is going to be the Shazbots. And for No Unit, we have Lemieux and Weinhold once again. And for the Shazbots, we have Sleksa and DayWalkeRzyxx, who is also known as Guinea Pig. Now, NATO versus NATO is going to be very interesting because, of course, NATO has a lot of helicopters. And it's very interesting to note that helicopters have been nerfed recently. Yes, big, huge news for the game in terms of balance. The big change was that whenever a helicopter crashes, the infantry will almost always certainly die. The only exception are very expensive 15 infantry carrying helicopters, in which case I think 3 infantry will survive. So we'll have to see what each team has in store for this. And of course, it's a very odd finals because we're not on our standard highway to Oslo, so that should change things quite a bit. Of course, very noticeable on this map, the 2-point bases, that is our big money building bases, are actually in very secure locations. Very hard to strike. Very well secured, have lots of forests, all that good stuff. There are a lot of things you can do on this map. For example, if red were to take this delta base, and they could attack into alpha very easily. So it becomes very important for blue to take both this and push in through here. It's definitely a very circular focused map. And as we get underway, we're seeing that there are in fact going to be 3 fighter jets coming out here for Lemieux for the Weinhold, and only 1 coming out for Shazbots. Now keep in mind that airplay has seen pretty significant nerfs as of late, and we'll see what they're going to plan to do with this. Now, neither team has actually opted to use napalm, and that's a good choice. The map that we're looking at is very non-linear, and we're seeing a 4th freedom fighter being rallied out here, probably just purchased from the very beginning in income, and able to get off a few helicopter kills here. Now there's some AA helicopters coming in as well, and this is some pretty good support. In our first middle battle, AA helicopters firing on the helicopters do get 1 to go down. Keep in mind, no raining man anymore, so that will not survive. The helicopters of Weinhold Lemieux will in fact go down, as Shazbot struggling quite a bit in this very opening engagement. All the AA helicopters are completely heavy ammunition, have disposed of most of these helicopters, and the heavy hogs are coming in for the sweep. This base has been secured. Any other conflicts? Oh, we have a small flock of Blackhawks coming down south. Now keep in mind, there's some funny things you can do with these. Still, AA helicopters are trying to swing in, trying to get a good angle to pick off as many of these as humanly possible. All 4 are landing. All 4 of them will in fact land. All 4 will get their infantry out and will in fact gain this very vital road route, which will of course block this area. And so now the Shazbots will in fact grab this delta base and be able to push into this very valuable 2-point base. AA helicopters being insanely effective in this matchup, able to kill most of these gazelles off. Now there are a few infantry being deployed here via infantry carrier. There are light riflemen here to try and deal with them, as well as some support of some heavy hogs as well, trying to deal with some of these vehicles and infantry. Looks like so far the Shazbots do with a +1 advantage, which of course is huge. And on a map like this, gaining position is going to be very important. And so it's going to be very important as well for No Unit to try and get out of command relatively soon. Just because they do have the position on the map, they have a very dominant position. And the more commands they get at this point, the better they should do. Now keep in mind, there's a lot of pressure going on here, so they may want to have to reinforce this area. There's in fact going to be another 30 light riflemen coming out here to try and support this, as these higher units are getting picked off from every side, and these really awkward Panzer skates, which I've never seen before. A Panzer Skite. Maybe there's a hard T there. I'm sure someone will correct me in the comments. Looks like they're all getting pretty well devastated. A massive flanking maneuver here of heavy hogs combined with a lot of infantry and some nice little AT weapons in the woods, picking off all the vehicles. This was an absolute slaughter, and if you like to see the view from the ground, it is not pretty. The poor riflemen are getting picked off one by one. Very nice uniforms, however, for this very odd named group. Looks like they have some sailor caps on. Nope, that is a Tommy gun, my mistake. And, ooh, a bar rifle, that's interesting. And they will continue to get picked off. Once you have infantry out in the open like this, it's problematic. Now, we do have a small push coming in through here, and this was done with this one delta base advantage, and of course, there is a similar advantage here. They've grabbed a nice flanking maneuver. They're going to come in with some support from leopards, some flak panzer jetboats, which are your anti-air vehicle, which of course will also deal with the infantry, are coming in to provide lots of air cover as they want to clear as many of these infantry as possible while getting some of their own. They have got 140 group of infantry into the hole. They got this flak panzer a little bit too close. They got to pull it back before it takes too many hits. And it looks like it's going to be some long-range shots on some of these helicopters. They should be getting these Marder Rollins. Here comes a Phantom Bomber. This is something we haven't seen in the game yet. We haven't seen acquisition of a bomber. Looks like it was almost entirely for naught. Ooh! Oh, yes! Actually, I was totally wrong. The napalm did in fact go off. It struck a lot of terror and has dispositioned a lot of AA and the main road route for infantry reinforcements, which of course all of them are going through. We're now looking at 1 hit point left on multiple of them. 1 hit point, 1 down, 2 down. Oh my god, all of the carriers down. Infantry all caught in the open. Huge misstep here from Shazbot. We're not paying attention to this very massive napalm location. Flak Panzer is getting picked off currently by an AT vehicle. As I said, there are some Panzer Skites here who will be able to deal with. Now there is a smoke here. This smoke is an attempt to make sure that other things are not firing on this location. And of course it's failing massively, just not getting the good wide arc that they needed there. There is a small flank forming over here. Looks like it will be a stalemate. The middle is mostly rounded out. No unit has in fact captured enough bases to grab this. And we're looking at a map that's pretty well divided. The major difference here, however, is there is no forward flank for Shazbot. They do not have anything at Bravo. And they're moving out a few infantry and a command here to try and stop the bleeding. And stopping the bleeding means getting this base. For those who are new to Wargame, people who do not understand how this works, people who are playing Total Destruction, or people who want to play the game is available, of course, on Steam. In the Conquest mode, you gain points by having the superior number of bases counted. If you have 1 less base with a 1 point on it, you will start bleeding 1 point, and your opponent will be gaining 1 point at a time. The second you capture it, the bleeding stops. Now, it's kind of an ironic stop here because they've actually both stopped dead even. This means there's no bonus on either side to finish this. It could absolutely end in a tie. Unlikely, considering how aggressive no unit has been in the past, but absolutely possible that could be a tie. As I just said, no unit is a very, very hyper-aggressive team. They like well thought out, well timed power pushes that just stomp people in. They like whittling away their opponents over time and then just coming with the big numbers. Now we do have 2 Zippos, which are our flamethrower tanks, which are burning forests down and trying to get all of these infantry. Infantry are actually moving up into the Zippo through the fire to try and kill it. If the Zippo can get another napalm, he might be worthwhile, but no, he will get stunned. He will run through his own napalm, taking even more damage. And the napalm just wasn't clearly not cost effective there. Really needs to napalm this location here. There are going to be 40 infantry, 80 infantry coming up here and some anti-infantry vehicles supporting, and they will drop into this one base, which of course eventually no unit will think of taking as one of their nice little flanks. There are some Challengers and Leopard 2A4s. These are some pretty heavy, big, potent, powerful tanks, and the key to using the heavy tanks is keeping them alive. You have to get that veterancy number up. You have to make sure they become juggernauts, and eventually they'll just win. Now look at this. Infantry being a little bit ballsy. Going to try and perfectly go into the pink zone here, able to completely surrender it, and we might see a little bit of infantry leapfrog here. Infantry leapfrog is basically you select your infantry, you move them to the adjacent village, and this way you can get all of your infantry forward fighting, get numbers on your side. In this case, these infantry here would have to move to this location here, and this infantry would move to this one. Hypothetically, if you have another group of infantry coming in, they would settle in here, and so on and so forth, just leapfrogging into and out of danger. Finally, this Zippo was being a little more effective, able to get some napalm on location, was picked off. course, the light riflemen do in fact have that Dragon rocket launcher, so they're a terribly, terribly effective anti-tank weapon, able to deal with napalm pretty effectively. We do have a call for attack here. It looks like this location has in fact been scouted by these light riflemen, and momentarily we should see a bombing or a napalm, not a napalm, a bombing or an artillery call on that location. Now keep in mind this location here is still very, very vulnerable. This is very weird for no unit. They're rarely ever under attack here. It looks like the heavy hogs are coming in to try and do some support. And here comes the intruder. This is a very big moment. Will the intruder hit the pay dirt? Now, of course, when you see an intruder coming, your first move is always going to be to move your command. Looks like he hits the anti-air instead. A Humvee is pushing forward, of course. In this mode, these Humvees are absolutely useless and will provide a little bit of forward scouting information. This is really wise. If he can just go along this road route and see if there's any dangers here, once this is cleared out, he could potentially run all this way. Now, instead, it looks like he's trying to fake it a little bit, or possibly routed. Actually rooted. Sometimes you'll try and run these empty carriers into potential locations just so you can keep the bleeding going. And now the Honus is on no unit, as I said, hyper aggressive, using a lot of helicopters insanely effectively, trying to wipe out infantry in these vehicles so they can get their own vehicles through and their own infantry through. Now keep in mind, these helicopters do not have a great endgame use. These heavy hogs do not deal with tanks very effectively. They are not your endgame helicopter unit. They will continue trying to plow through, trying to get rid of as many of these infantry as humanly possible so that the big force, the big tank and infantry forces can clean on through, grab this location, and move forward. Now the Humvee is moving forward, has in fact spotted a Roland. Looks like great use of that Humvee so far, able to get a little bit. In the middle location here, we have tons of infantry moving in. We have insane numbers actually. Canadian Rifles looks like he's going to get wiped out in his pink zone. Higher Heidschabet versus higher Heidschabet in the middle here. And it looks like red will grab this pink zone. Blue will grab this one. And it's going to be all about the micro, the infantry micro, and the management here. There is a group of Panzer Grenadiers trying to run in. They want to grab this area right here so they can strike at this rifleman squad and this higher Heidschabet. But it looks like it might just die from napalm. No, instead going to go for this pink zone. With now a light purple zone, I guess. And the zone is grabbed. There is a napalm done across what could have potentially been all infantry, and of course this means that any new infantry coming in will have to run through fire, will take that extra damage, and will come much weaker. Very wisely choosing to place his infantry inside these towns and going to try and leapfrog them into dangerous way. Once you're in the towns, you become very hyper tanky and able to absorb a lot of this napalm damage, but when you're getting there, it becomes very problematic, and no unit just showing that immense amount of talent in micro, just leapfrogging their infantry across very quickly, very fast and effectively. Now there is an opportunity for this higher Heidschabet to leapfrog into here, and once again for the leapfrog to happen forward. No infantry reinforcements en route. In this new main battlefront, looks like the command here has been completely removed by a heavy hog force. Light riflemen have been dropped from behind and should do a decent amount of damage. There is a rise pattern here coming to add some support, and of course with the Browning rifle and a nice tank destroyer should be fine. Looks like it has been reacquired, but not exactly the most ideal of locations. This is very vulnerable. Now in the current situation, it is the most ideal of locations, of course, because there are two infantry supporting this flank here. Now, there isn't too much supporting this flank here. That's the bigger issue, is this base here, Bravo. As long as this is happening, as long as there's enough infantry to fight this all off, things should mostly be fine. But looks like the infantry numbers are starting to diminish. Oh god, that was brutal. Leopard 2A4 grabs two of the infantry down. Corsair's going to fire. Double napalms go down. 1 and 2 right on top of infantry. Looks like they should be doing a little bit of damage. Yes, they are. In fact, this higher Heidschabet left the town just for a second, and that's all it needed. This is the kind of power of napalm. Once they are out of those towns, they just take insanely high amounts of fire damage and actually going to get whittled down to nothing. All the while, they have some 39 Canadian rifles. Blame Canada! Entering this random location here, and should be leapfrogging forward relatively soon to try and grab this base before this higher Heidschabet grabs it. Speaking of which, huge win here on the napalm. Actually able to kill about 40 infantry. One of the most successful napalms I've seen in the game to date, by the way. Huey's picking off these infantry with some rifleman support, and might be able to actually get itself to a position to... What? Yeah, looks like there was a command kill here. A pretty massive one as well, and some random log stingers being dropped here and killing off a lot of helicopters. Pretty brutal. Now this place is being reinforced. I assume a new command is coming soon. Yes, in fact, going to go with a Centurion tank. Now, of course, the Centurion tank is noted for not being able to have a lot of gasoline. They don't travel very far. They're very, very awful in travel efficiency. And once they're in place, they stick in place. They do not move. They're the most stationary tank in the game. Speaking of which, more higher regiments have come to support the Canadian Rifles. More infantry coming in. Looks like they got picked off. Brutal! Leopard 2A4s versus Leopard 2A4s, both in position, trying to pick off each other's infantry. And here comes another flock, a murder of Corsairs, able to drop those napalms on locations. It gets 1, 2, and 3 bases, get some stuns, and just whittling away those numbers. I haven't seen napalm that play this good in quite some time. Using napalm to actually kill infantry, something we don't actually get to see that much often, and trading very, very cost effectively. If they can keep this up, they can possibly win the end game. And the end game, of course, is to try and take out this 2-point base from one of these viable flanks. Alternatively, of course, taking out reinforcement points. Now, as you can see, things not so bright and cheery on the western or eastern flank. This one over here, the big pressure point for no unit. And as these riflemen come in, as these M35s try and spot for the riflemen to fire, we could see some pretty brutal play here from no unit. Looks like more infantry going to move in here and could potentially take this location. I'm surprised there's nothing here. But the middle base is going to be the focus, the main focus here for Shazbots. Sorry, guys. Shazbot's been very, very cost effective, these Corsairs. But here comes an F-15 Eagle Interceptor. There's 2 of them left, looks like. Intercepted. Yes, one goes down, and the other one looks like it goes down as well. So all the napalm is now officially gone. Ridiculous amounts of napalm. It looks like some pretty misguided locations here. And it has gone from some of the best to some of the worst. Because this looks like the attack path that he has actually used here instead of the defense path. Yeah, that's not so hot. Air supremacy looks like it will in fact go to no unit right now. There's not really a lot of air superiority fighters out there and available for Shazbots. They've been using these napalms just to try and pick off some numbers. And unfortunately, we do have a mirror of tactics, but one team has used them more effectively than the other. Note, this is the same thing as this. And unfortunately, this worked out really well because no unit was willing to sacrifice units to kill a command. That's why it worked out. They were throwing napalms at commands. They had better vision, so on and so forth. And, you know, that's something that we could see from Shazbots as well. And there is a command right here, and it's a really awkward location. It's just barely on the map, and it's almost invisible to random bombings. You would try to hit within the square, you wouldn't hit along the edges. That wouldn't make sense. And so a little bit of a trickster play here by no unit in terms of this command placement here. The battle will rage on for middle, however, and this is really make or break for Shazbots. If they can break this, they can grab this out of here, possibly even move up and grab this position. The big difference between what Shazbots are doing, what no unit's doing, is no unit does these big micro-oriented approaches. Yes, in a very small scale, they're very interested in grabbing positions. When they're absolutely dominating someone, they'll go for positions. But their big concern is killing commands. So they'll orchestrate a big forward push, and as soon as they spot the command, they will go for a big bombing. And Shazbots is playing more of what you consider to be a classic position play. They're looking to grab position of this area here, this forest, and this forest. Put a command around right here, and then build up the +2. +2 because this is a -1 for no unit, and +1 for Shazbots, if it's grabbed. Now, I don't know if it's going to work, though. We're about 22 minutes left, and no unit, as well as being hyper-aggressive, are kind of known for having these really, really big infantry decks. Now, of course, that's not to say that Shazbot hasn't brought a lot of infantry themselves. They have. But consistently in this location, no unit has been able to constantly refill this more and more infantry, despite having been completely and devastatingly, brutally beaten to a bloody pulp in their last engagement. With napalm, of course. That's what I'm talking about. And just to give you an idea, like, they're forced to bring out helicoptered airborne infantries right now. I can't imagine this is a choice to bring out these Canadian rifles with these CH-118s. And speaking of Wad Stingers doing insanely good, actually wiping out 2 helicopters and wiping out a bunch of infantry. And looks like these riflemen are actually going to go inside the woods here as these helicopters bring in support. Actually a good choice. Very, very good. If they can get across here, get into this jungle region, they have one of the 2 areas they need to secure. At this point, it almost makes sense to bring in a command tank and place it in one of these areas and just start sucking away at some of those points from no unit. The command tank, of course, is the king of all commands. They are varying in their uses and sizes and loadouts. For example, there's an FFC Centurion tank here. No, pretty high amount of armor. If they were to move this one forward and put it maybe right here, in this spot here, it might be able to start the bleeding. Now, of course, this is going to cause a huge negative repercussions by no unit, but that's an idea. Just mobilizing your forces effectively, and I'm not entirely sure anymore that they're going to be able to break this. Just no unit just always has so many freaking infantry. They're just non-stop rallying infantry. As their infantry are dying, they're instantly replenishing it with numbers. It's either they're going to have to abandon this position and push another flank, or they're going to have to cancel it out. They have to do something. They're 70 points behind, and they have to make them up at some point in this game. This doesn't look like any more that is a winning strategy. It doesn't look like it could possibly do anything. They have had tanks supporting, they have Zippos trying to come across the field here. This is a little bit of a different thing. If he can get this Zippo across, he can place it here, and he can use this position while under woods to napalm this position here with the Zippo. Now it looks like the Zippo is starting to realize, like, oh no, this is actually a mountain, and only infantry can be on mountains. Ooh, it's not very good. We have diminishing numbers of infantry here for no unit, actually, and the unit count here, the napalm, not the infantry unit count here for Shazbot is actually ridiculous. A Leopard 2A4 is moving up, might move in the counter tank range, could be brutal, but they're actually making some ground here. This is absolutely ridiculously ridiculous. Most of these infantry that look like high amounts of numbers are actually low amounts of numbers, and we're micro back effectively. And infantry are coming in, taking out a lot of these Jago commandos, these Jago commandos, which are, of course, East German. And they've actually pretty well cleared this location. They actually need to really deal with this sooner rather than later. They need to move in a command soon. Now they're rallying in more tanks on these Leopard 1A INOs, which of course are your Norwegian. Is that a Norwegian flag? Or is that a Swedish flag? If it's Danish, I'll be very upset with myself. Oh my god, Intruder gets some good napalm shots. Yes, it does. Actually, my bad. My bad. That was just nuclear bombs. That was just some cluster bombs. Able to get 30 kills there, though. Pretty damn good. This is the helicopter I'm talking about. The Apache. Boom! Leopard 2 goes down. The Apache is the king of the skies. 155-point helicopter. Whoo yeah! And now that that tank is down, this is summoned immediately for these Leopards and these chieftains to come forward and do some crazy damage. A Flak Panzer has been cut off in the distance. Will try to fire on the Apache, and the Leopards should clean up the Flak Panzer relatively easy. Coming in for the support, actually getting picked off by some Canadian rifles. This could be pretty bad. Absolutely could be bad. 5 points left on this Chieftain Mark 10 as the Leopard is doing some pretty considerable damage. Infantry are moving forward very, very quickly with infantry support vehicles. We're seeing a pretty big pullback, and we have the call, an X. Sleksa has put an X on this command. They know, in fact, where it is, and they just need a vehicle to come in and deal with it. Artillery is being fired, and it will be fired on this location. This is a pretty brutal and honestly unexpected change of events here, as infantry domination has completely surrounded now. It is absolutely Shazbot's game. They have 2 Leopard 2A4s coming in and doing some pretty punishing damage with our good old Danish tank. A Danish tank moving forward as well, trying to pick up as many of these infantry vehicles as they can get in. They get one of them so far. There's still missing some infantry, however. They need to get these 40 infantry deployed onto this base so they can go ahead and push forward. The tanks, however, are continuing to push forward, doing that brutal, desperate act that they need to do. They need to get a command in here, though. They have helicopters, anti-infantry helicopters moving forward in a support. A miraculous smoke has been put down for the Zippo as it's just able to clear the area in time. Needs to get a napalm down on these towns, however, pronto. The Leopard 1A continues moving through the woods as if this was an old McDonald's song. There are 2 heavy hogs here, but once again, this is not a great tank solution. This is a fantastic infantry solution. Going to use those very cheap, very cost-effective rocket tower to try and do some pitter-patter damage. Will probably get this vehicle, but will it be able to do the damage with the tanks? That is the big concern here. The Leopard 1A actually in position now to do some pretty good damage. Leopards have to move around this smoke. This smoke, of course, is also obscuring fire of the Leopards. And these heavy hogs are completely uncontested. There's a Chaparral, however. A Chaparral firing distance. We have a command being moved here. The Corsair is coming. Will no unit micro it in time. Here comes the bomb. Will it hit? A big stun, but no kill. The napalm is laid down here. Will they be able to get the rest of it? That's the big question. Will it burn to death? That is uncertain. It is certainly unclaimed right now, and this is a pretty pivotal, big, damaging moment for no unit. These have been the kings of the tournaments. They've been dominating in North America. They've been climbing up very steadily and gaining position in the EU, and they have been absolutely dominating. The command is still just slightly in the napalm, and we still have a call for attack here. They know it's still there. They're circling around. The infantry numbers are starting to fall apart here from no unit. Something that's been completely unexpected. Nobody in this tournament has been able to challenge their numbers. The command is on the move. It is completely open. Smoke has been deployed by no unit in all locations, trying to protect this command as long as humanly possible. Napalm! Napalm on infantry in transit. This is huge. This is absolutely huge. There's fire. These riflemen will not be able to get forward. There's certainly not enough infantry in this middle location to hold it. If Shazbots can get this kill, they did. Actually, they did. Haha, they did. They got the kill. Now it is a 0 versus 0 because apparently this base is gone. That's really random and weird. A call for attack here actually has been done. They have a command moving back here. They will start the bleeding on no unit momentarily, but they need to get another command up. They absolutely need to get a command up, and this is one of the big benefits of doing a strong position play in Conquest. They've been able to force no unit out of this very, very important Charlie base. They have 13 minutes. They need to get that command there, and they need to start milking it for what it's worth. They've moved all their tanks up into a forward position, and they're now firing on the Leopard 2s, who are absolutely in retreat, doing the reverse commands. They minimize their damage. The OH-58 anti-tank, it's an anti-air helicopter is on retreat as well, completely limited in ammunition. And this Leopard 2A4 is still sitting around trying to get some pot shots at this Leopard 2A4 of the opponent and a challenger, but this is all for naught. He's got to get this Leopard out of here fast. No unit is in a very dangerous position. Shazbot is on the verge of doing the unthinkable, the impossible. They're on the verge of actually beating no unit in the final games. This is not something I could have possibly ever predicted. M1 Abrams coming in to try and join the support. Looks like there's a command being rallied out here by Lemieux, but of course, it's too late. The tanks are already in position to deflect that. They will be able to kill that as soon as it comes into position, and they're going to realize as soon as they get fired upon that this is a huge mistake. They might also be trying to time this off with a push. This is something we've seen from no unit in the past. When they're on the ground, when they're begging for mercy, a lot of times they will time a push, and they'll have a command come the second the push hits. If they do that, they absolutely have a chance. But right now, they are up against the ropes. Shazbot, who I would absolutely consider to be the big, massive underdog for not only this game, but for the entire tournament, for the entire 5-week tournament. They are not someone you would see as being a fierce competitor, but here they are. now proving to be two of the more dominant players in the game, two of the better players in the game. They just need to get that command out. Here it comes, as originally declared. It is, in fact, going to be your FFC Centurion. Oh, baby, I love you. Going to go ahead and roll down this road and grab this base. This is a huge location. And, of course, now with the Centurion, now with superior position, they will actually be able to use the Centurion to actually do some damage as well. Picking off all these infantry would be huge if they're able to do this. Leopard 2E4 still in the woods, still unspotted. All of the infantry have been deployed and should be able to be picked off in the middle. Now keep in mind, these infantry will also provide vision and support for this Leopard 2A4 to do his work, and this M1 Abrams. So this could be somewhat of a Pyrrhic victory in the future. Here comes two M1 Abrams as well. Where is the extra command? They might have actually canceled it off, realizing that it is a huge problem for them, or moved it to a more secure location. And it looks like we're seeing a small little push up in this flank here. Might try and grab for a nice little double effect, but we're going to see a +2. No unit has never in this tournament been so humiliated like they have right now. We have 1, 2, 3 supply helicopters, all empty. Going to go ahead and run forward, try and drain some of that AA ammunition, try and get some spotting done for their tanks to fire on. We see a pretty massive push here. We have 3 tanks and a Yago commander with their good old-fashioned Milan F1 rockets. Now we have the logistics, the supply trucks overhead, and they don't actually have any real vision. That's one of their big problems. No real vision. They can't actually see things because they don't have optics. But if things fire on them, they can. Now, we have 3 mortars rallied out here, which will try and help support with this massive problem right now. There are lots of tanks here supporting. The Centurion will now get into position. We're now seeing a +2, and this could easily be the closest game. This is going to come down to numbers. Can they defend this location? They need to get lots of AT in these towns to help support against this giant tank barrage. They need to stop this fast. The Flak Panzer actually stopped firing, kill off 2 of these logistics, which is the goal, to drain some ammunition. And M1 Abrams coming in against Leopards in close range. Going to pick off 1. They should be also able to get the Leopard as well. Will they get the Leopard? This is the huge bounty. It is a 5 vetted Leopard. 5 vet is the highest of vets. 1 Abrams goes down, trades for the Leopard. Absolutely worth it. We're now at +2, however. And time is the enemy right now for no unit. This very much last-minute play by Shazbot, which was completely unexpected, threw us completely off, has succeeded. The vile no unit is shifting around. They have a command coming up, and they might be trying to do something that is actually really cool. It's something that they almost only do themselves. They'll put a command in a corner, cancel out that corner, and then smoke it. And this is a time buying practice. They have to buy time. They have 9 minutes left. And unfortunately for no unit at this point, it's not even going to be enough to grab this location. They need 2. They need 2 right now. It's almost impossible. And right now the most valuable flanks are going to be this one here, which could survive it. And oh my god, no unit has surrendered. Lemieux is out of this game. All unit control goes to Werner Reinhold. How much longer will he survive? Realizing it's inevitable, yes, we have a huge victory. An honorable victory by Shazbot, completely knocking out no unit, who valiantly surrendered once they realized it was completely impossible. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Troublemaker. Greatest match so far of the tournament. I'll see you guys next week for week 5. See you then.